We know that natural disasters caused by climate crises and scarcity of resources increases violence against women and girls. But can gender-based violence cause climate change? First, let's remember that gender-based violence isn't only based on the way someone looks. It's used to reinforce gender stereotypes and roles, often in limiting and sometimes life-threatening ways. Why does that matter? Reinforcing gender stereotypes and roles gives education, skills, and opportunity only to some people, while others are left at a disadvantage that can be lethal. Socially constructed do's and don'ts for women limit their survival choices. One of the main reasons the 2004 tsunami in Sri Lanka killed more women than men was because in Sri Lanka, swimming and tree climbing are used to perform tasks done exclusively by men. When the tsunami hit, women and girls literally couldn't save themselves because they didn't know how to swim or climb a tree. What does that have to do with climate change? Gender-based violence is used to assert control over natural resources and to diminish the efforts of those working towards a safe and healthy environment. In regions of aggressive economic development, the influx of workers into indigenous areas leads to an increase of sex work, sexual harassment, and rape, causing a migration to safer regions. As indigenous people abandon their lands, deforestation accelerates. In rural areas, women farmers without secure land rights are less willing to plant trees because they can't be sure they'll recover their investment if they have to abandon their farm due to violence. They're also less likely to invest in new technologies or slow-yield crops, good for sustainability, but that yield smaller crops in the short term, a shortfall for which women are physically punished. Domestic violence, community violence, child marriage, female genital mutilation, and threat of forced sex labor drive women and girls from their homes. They often migrate into cities looking for work, contributing to an already saturated capacity of urban infrastructures. Country-to-city migration by women is now greater than male migration. Violence against women keeps people in poverty and cities segregated. Women are more likely to turn down job opportunities that require travel across town because it exposes them to sexual harassment and violence on public transportation. Gender-based violence on mass transit is the main reason women travel by taxi or private car when they can afford it. Globally, rape is 5 times higher in cities than in rural areas. In the United States alone, victims from urban areas account for 55% of all sexual assaults and rapes, which carries a total economic burden of almost $3.1 trillion a year. In all regions, both rural and urban, threat of violence and acts of violence discourage girls from going to school or pursuing higher education. In the U.S., 34.1% of students who have been sexually victimized drop out of college or university, never to return. Threats and acts of abuse, kidnapping, and rape against environmental defenders as a tactic to intimidate and silence them affects the ability of women and girls to equally and safely participate in climate movements. But it's our planet too. Yes, gender-based violence in all its forms is a contributing factor of climate change. We must end gender-based violence. Our whole planet depends on it.